2 years ago today, I quit my job and we went all in on this YouTube game, and now we have over 100,000 subscribers. Thank you if you're one of those people that have subscribed, and if you're new here, you might want to hit that subscribe button because we are not done yet. In today's video, I'm going to recap that entire journey for you, what's changed since I quit my job, how I actually got to the position where I could do that, the highs, the lows, everything in between. Let's get into it. So to kick this all off, I want to rewind to before I quit my job and before we even started making YouTube videos, because I think it's important to set the scene and give you that context. So let's go back to 2021. Daniel and I had just bought our first house in Reading. We had to absolutely gut the place from top to bottom, and basically all of our free time was spent doing DIY, or for me, training. I was working as a civil servant, mostly working from home because we were still sort of, was the pandemic still going on then? I think it was. And Daniel was working as a nanny, as a actor seeking work. Most of the time you're not working, he was nannying to pay the bills. And it was at some point towards the end of that year, I think we were maybe halfway done with the house. I think we'd done the upstairs rooms and the bathroom. The kitchen, dining room and lounge were a mess. Anyway, I can remember sitting down with Daniel at the end of 2021 and talking about starting a YouTube channel. And it's something I was always intrigued by and thought would be really fun because I liked watching YouTube videos and I liked the idea of being a vlogger, but I didn't see any women in the elite running space, especially in the UK, documenting what they were doing, their training, with their races. So that would be a cool gap to fill, I guess. Daniel watches a lot of YouTube and was always really keen on the idea, so we kind of flirted with it, didn't set anything in stone. And in the new year, in 2022, I had a race coming up. It was the Farnborough Half Marathon as part of my training for my first marathon in Seville. And Daniel said, let's just film it on our phones, vlog the day. If we hate it, we don't have to post it, but let's start. This will be a fun first video for us. That's where it started. You can very much go back and watch that first video if you so wish. I would say that it's not worth your time, and the back catalogue we have has much better videos in it than our first one. But hey, if your first isn't a bit naff or something that you're a little bit embarrassed by 2 years on, 3 years on, I'm at peace with that. And although it was really scary sharing that first video, because all of those worries about what are people going to think, how is this going to be received, is this going to just completely flop, will anyone even watch it, are very much at the forefront of your mind. And don't get me wrong, those are still things that we think today, but that was the start of getting to where we are today, which is really cool. So I shouldn't be embarrassed or, hating that video looking back, because without it, our lives would look so different. And what's even crazier to me is to think that that first video we released at the start of 2022 was in the same year that I quit my job because of this YouTube thing. That just blows my mind. And starting out, I definitely didn't think that that would ever even be an option, or that we would get close to that. Daniel, however, being the YouTube addict he is, knows that you can start small and it can build into a legitimate career. So he was the one convincing me, no, we can make this work. We can make some money off of this. It could pay our bills one day, and it could actually be our jobs. So I guess in this instance, Daniel, you were right. The other really cool thing that happened in 2022, before quitting my job, way before quitting my job, was running my first marathon. And we took you guys along in a little bit of a different format to what we do these days with the race videos, because money was quite tight and we could only just afford for me to fly out to Seville to race my first marathon there, and Daniel wasn't able to come. Now, these days, I don't think I could race a marathon without Daniel being there. It would just feel weird, in a sense that he's there obviously to support me, but also we wouldn't be able to bring you the videos that we bring you without Daniel being there. He's so integral to the videography and obviously the editing of these videos. What was different about this one was we made it work because my dad came with me. So shout out Simon for coming along, making that video possible. I can remember seeing my dad hop on the e-scooters during the race and stopping, whipping his phone out to film me, jumping back on the e-scooter, riding down the road and then popping out again to get multiple angles for us. So he did us a real solid. I love looking back on that video because it wasn't just my first marathon on the channel. It felt like our first really good video. Don't get me wrong, I think today there are lots of things we would do differently, but we were both really proud of what we were able to create from that experience, both bringing you guys along behind the scenes and showing you the race, but also just creating something that at that point was better than we had created before. So that was really cool. And to be honest, starting my marathon career, those races all around that time kind of coincide with me, finding the love for running again. I don't think that you can separate that from this YouTube channel. You know, I was creating and documenting at the same time as doing the training and the racing. I think the two really marry up together, and these days I wouldn't want to have one without the other. It's a weird one because for a lot of people, putting their training in front of the camera and having to talk through what they're doing would be very uncomfortable and alien, and they wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I felt like that at the start as well. I felt very uncomfortable, but it's genuinely helped motivate me in my running, which is something I never expected to get from doing this. And that summer, having fallen back in love with running again, I just let myself be gravitated towards what was enjoyable. And whilst I'd had a lot of fun doing the marathon, you can't just put yourself straight into another one straight afterwards. So I got stuck in some track races and we took you guys along with us. You enjoyed the videos, we loved making them, and I think being able to film more races back to back, we learned a lot from that process as well. And I got faster as well, ran some PBs that summer. I think I got down to 15:44 in the 5K, managed to come 7th at the British Championships. And that summer, following my first marathon, those performances and the trajectory I was on is what led to the next really big change. 2022 was just a year of big changes. I joined Team New Balance Manchester, which was a huge step in me taking my running to the next level, because I was officially able to say I'm a pro runner, because I was supported by a brand joining a professional running team. Whilst that didn't work out in the long run, as a lot of you will have seen, we have no regrets making that move. And I say we because it wasn't just my decision. We moved our lives to Manchester, where I'm now filming this video, to join that team. So it wasn't just me saying yes to a big opportunity, it was also Daniel kind of sacrificing what he wanted to do, saying, yeah, I'm happy to sell up this house that we've just finished renovating and move our lives hundreds of miles up the country to live in the north for the first time. And he does still complain about the weather, but I think we both like it here. So we sold our house at the end of that summer and moved to Manchester. I think we got here in November of 2022. Joining the team, training with other professional athletes who have been doing this for years and not working a corporate job. If you can call working as a civil servant a corporate job, that was really the catalyst to me quitting my job and the start of this journey to where we are now, where our lives are very, very different from our day-to-day when we first moved up here. One of the main things that led me to make that decision was seeing my teammates doing the same training as me, the same amount of hours, if you like, put into the running, the sessions, the gym work, but them also having time to dedicate to recovery from that training. Whereas I was kind of rushing to fit my training in the morning and then rushing home to be able to start work, because I'd shifted my hours around so that I could still keep this job because I needed to earn some money, until I didn't need that job to earn some money. And it wasn't an overnight decision. Whilst I quit my job just a month and a half after moving to Manchester, we realised that what we do on this channel and what I had built with my coaching business on the side of working as a civil servant was actually enough to pay the bills and free up that time sat at my desk doing a job that didn't light my soul on fire. And I can remember that feeling. Obviously I'd handed my notice in and I knew that the clock was ticking, I was going to be done. Used up all my annual leave so I could finish early. Logging off from my last ever shift working as a civil servant with lovely, lovely people, by the way. That's not what I hated about the job. I just knew it wasn't for me. It was such a feeling. Knowing that I was making this decision that felt so right to me, to my core, to follow my dreams, which still exist today, you know, to make it to the Olympics one day. Yeah, whilst the move hasn't completely worked out, I think at that point I would have said to you, I'm going to be on this New Balance team for the next 5 years. I'm going to grow with them. I'm going to be putting in my best performances on this team, in this setup. That's why we moved here. Whilst that side of things didn't work out and wasn't the right move for me in the end, neither me or Daniel regret moving up here, because it allowed both of us to make such big changes in our lives that I don't think we would have made if we'd have just stayed in Reading. We wouldn't have had that pressure or the reason to make those changes. I never went back to working as a civil servant. Daniel, I'm sure, is very glad that he never went back to nannying, and we're both doing different things now, but it feels fulfilling and it feels like we're in the right spot. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about what's changed since I quit my job. So we've made it to that point, and that is the end of the year 2022, when we had 13,000 subscribers. And before I get into the absolute whirlwind that was 2023, something else that's changed quite a lot over the last 2 years since quitting my job and going all in on pursuing this dream to become Olympian is getting enough sleep so that I am prioritizing recovery and not getting sick and feeling ready to actually do my training. Something that helps me get the best night's sleep possible these days is my Manta Sleep eye mask. There is nothing better than being on a training camp or getting ready to do a race and being in a strange room. That's not the thing that is the best, but having this eye mask so that I can black out the room. Like, I can't see anything right now. Not one glimmer of light is coming in through this eye mask. And I've actually been wearing Manta Sleep eye masks for over 2 years now, and it's a staple in my training camps because I can put this on and it's not touching my eyelids, so it's not uncomfortable, and it stays on whatever position I'm sleeping in, which is, you know, I move around quite a lot. All of their eye masks are adjustable, so you can take these eye cups off and move them around depending on how far apart your eyes are and, you know, where's comfortable for you. And it is your last chance to get a discount. From December the 23rd to December the 31st, these are the discounts on offer. It starts at 15% off, but the more you spend, the more discount you get, so you can get all the way up to 25% off. Maybe you're buying your whole family a set of sleep masks. And as well as those tiered discounts, Manta are also sending a free sleep journal with every order. And if it's after December 31st and those discounts have sadly ended, you can still get 10% off using my code, which is Phily, Phily. Head over to the link in the description to check them out. Thank you, Manta, for sponsoring today's video. Back to the story time. If I had to sum up 2023, my first year out of this job that I thought I was going to be doing for decades, I think it would be the year of firsts. I kicked off the year on my first proper altitude training camp with Team New Balance Manchester, and we went to Flagstaff. This was my first time in Flagstaff, and I think for months of 2023, but especially at the start, I just felt like I was on annual leave. I didn't feel like I'd made this huge life change, this big decision, and that this was my life now. I felt like I'd been given a holiday almost. And I think a lot of people that watch YouTubers, or even looking at the life of an elite athlete, traveling around the world to do races and training camps, thinks that it is a holiday because you're not sat at a desk working a traditional job like a lot of people do. Obviously there's lots of different jobs out there, but I'm picking a big stereotype because a lot of people work in an office building at a desk, and what we do is very different from that. And I think throughout the year it slowly started to feel more like work and less like a holiday, but it never felt like work had felt before, because work had always been unenjoyable and something that we didn't want to be doing, both me and Daniel. And this just felt like fun, and it still does. It does feel more professional and a little bit more strategic and organised in a similar way to, you know, work that we've done in the past. But it still doesn't feel like work in a way, because we're just having a good time with it most of the time. Don't get me wrong. There are days I don't want to film, and there are days I don't want to train, and you have to show up on those days as well. 2023 was also the year that Daniel came out of his shell a little bit more and started appearing on the channel more in the videos, both, you know, acknowledging that he's behind the scenes filming and editing a lot of them, but also coming into the videos as a subject a lot, which was really fun. I've really enjoyed being able to create with him. And I think throughout 2023, Daniel got more comfortable being in front of the camera as well, which as an actor, he very much should have been comfortable with already, but he became comfortable being himself on camera. I went on another training camp in 2023 over the Easter period to St. Moritz. First time in St. Moritz, also last time in St. Moritz. I haven't been back since. And that was to prep for my second marathon in Copenhagen. Copenhagen is definitely another huge milestone for this YouTube channel, but also for me in my running, because it was such a big breakthrough day. The videos performed really well, which was sort of a breakthrough for the channel afterwards. I'm so grateful that I have those videos to look back on, because when you run a marathon, you think when you're experiencing the race that you're gonna remember all of the details and everything that happens and how it feels and what you see and what you hear. But in reality you don't, because that pain kind of replaces all of those memories. So having those videos to look back on is so special from a really selfish standpoint, that I get to have this kind of really neat capsule, if you like, of that day and that experience. Daniel did a pretty good job with the Copenhagen race video. You guys loved it. He was crying every time he edited it, and that day was just one of those days where everything clicks. Whilst I've run faster now, taking 5 minutes off my marathon PB, negative splitting, feeling better and better throughout the race, surpassing my expectations, and finishing third was just a dream. It was a dream. It definitely wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the whole year though. I really wanted to run another track season, having had so much fun the year before, and that was always my plan after Copenhagen. With it being a little bit later in the spring, mid-May, it took me longer to recover and get my legs back underneath me to run on the track, but every time I tried to get a race on the calendar and start my track season, I got sick. And I must have had about 3 or 4 separate illnesses throughout that summer into the autumn that just meant the track season never actually happened, which was really upsetting at the time, but I think set me up really nicely to have a longer lead in to my next marathon and to go on my next training camp, which took me to Font-Romeu in the autumn. Whilst that camp wasn't spectacular or, you know, all that meaningful in the grand scheme of things, it was the first time that Daniel was able to join me on a training camp for some of the time. He came out for, I think, just over a week in the end. Throughout this time, coaching is still paying my bills on the most part, but the YouTube business and making these videos was what meant he was able to come and join me. So it's starting to open a few little doors and allowing us to live our lives a little bit differently. So that's another first. Daniel on a training camp with me. I mean, no offense, Daniel, you didn't do that much training, did you? Lots of really good encouragement and holding the camera. Also cooking, lots of great cooking, so very much appreciated. And that was also the first training camp I went on alone, without my team with me or kind of organising the whole thing. I booked my accommodation, my flights, decided I was going to go, and literally went out there on my own. Or so I thought. I was going to go alone. At the last minute, my good friend Neve said that she fancied coming as well, and did I have space for her? And I am so glad she came with me, because without Daniel there for the majority of the time, and without training partners and teammates and my coach with me, I think I would have gone just a little bit insane, as in more insane than I normally am, which, you know, just, I don't think that would have been a good thing. So I did that training camp in Font-Romeu, came home, got sick again, and then headed off for my last training camp of that year that actually took us into the year we're in now. We spent Christmas in Flagstaff, away from home, away from family, and Daniel was able this time to come for just over half the camp, or maybe 2/3. I think I was on my own for maybe 10 days or so before he was able to fly out and join me, which was another improvement in what this YouTube channel was allowing us to do. And boy, did I need him there on that camp, because that marathon block was not smooth. And we ended up finishing 2023 with 46,900 subscribers. We really wanted to get to the big 50 by the end of that year. It didn't happen, but that's okay. I think we learned a lot in that second year of creating and the first year of us taking it more seriously. And going into 2024, we wanted to start treating it more like a business. We decided on this outlandish goal of hitting 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, despite missing our goal to hit 50 by the start of 2024. But in the same way that I set performance goals for running, of running 2:25 for the marathon, we also set process goals like I do with my running and with my coaching. So we decided we wanted to just get 1% better in one area with every video we create. Whether it's Daniel improving his editing skills or branching out to learn new skills, us buying new equipment, better camera gear, and also spending more time thinking about the videos and planning them before we actually go and shoot them. I also started doing a little bit of writing, and it's amazing how much better a video comes together when there's just a little bit of scripting involved. One thing I don't love about Manchester is that it rains all the time. So, 2024. It's been quite a year. And I feel like if you just splattered the highlights, you could look at that and think, wow, solid year, only highs, no lows. That's never the case. It's been a really up and down year with a lot of really great, exciting highs and some really cool moments, but also some real lows and some very stressful times as well. If I could put in a request for 2025 to be less stressful, can I just put that request in now?
I'll see what I can do.
Sounds like a yes. So this year started off pretty much right at the start of the year with my third marathon, the Houston Marathon, which feels like it was last year, but it was almost a year ago. And Houston was a real mixture of emotions. On the one hand, I massively missed the goal that I was going for. I wanted to run in the region of 2:25, 2:26, and I ran 2:29:14, a tiny weeny little 2-second PB, which I really had to fight for. It was a huge positive split. I really didn't enjoy the race. It was like night and day compared to Copenhagen. And if you'd have said to me before that race, this is how it's gonna go, I would have told you I'd be distraught, so disappointed. But that wasn't my first feeling crossing the line. I had already kind of processed that it hadn't come off and it wasn't my day, and I was so proud of myself for finishing that race. And whilst it was a really tough day and something I don't want to experience in the same way ever again, after working my ass off during that training block and feeling like I didn't get to show where I was really at, I learned a lot that day. And I do think I probably bit off a little bit more than I could chew. I also think that it wasn't the day for me, and that's okay. And I think there's a huge lesson to be learned in that. In the marathon, you want everything to come off on one day in the year after training for that for months, and sometimes it's just not your day. And the Houston training block was really the start of me thinking about making a really big change, which I then did in March of this year. When I left Team New Balance Manchester, I officially wasn't a pro athlete anymore because I wasn't supported by a brand, and I also changed coaches, which was a lot. That decision was not easy. It really weighed on me at the time when I was kind of thinking about what to do and where to go next. That was actually really tough. Thinking back, I was so stressed about making the right decision, what was right for me, but also wanting to keep everyone else happy, which is impossible. So note to self, in the future, don't think about that because you're never going to please everyone. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings in that decision, and I didn't want to burn any bridges, but ultimately I had to make the decision that was right for me and for my career going forward. And that's when I started working with John, who I should have mentioned, by the way, I met when I was in Flagstaff in January, December for the Houston block, when I also met my now training group, Verde Track Club. I met Molly, I met Jessa, I met Connor. Those guys are now my teammates, my friends, and my training partners. And I've really not looked back from that decision. I wholeheartedly think it was the right one for me. I think the results of the rest of this year kind of speak for themselves on that front. And most importantly, I became a happier athlete from making that change and kind of changing my environment to suit me better. But John really had his work cut out. We started working together and it was like, you are immediately now my coach. What am I doing for training? What's the plan? Like, from one day him being a friend and someone I looked to for advice. The next, he was also still that, but my coach and having to set my plan. Not long after that, I raced the Berlin half marathon, which went okay. I ran a PB, but another one where I felt that I fell short. And then I went to Font-Romeu again to set up the track season. John had to deal with me getting a cold at altitude, whilst we're also in two completely different time zones, so he can't see my training. He's relying on the data that he can see and also how I'm feeling and what I'm communicating to him. But that, I think, meant that we had to start things off in a really good place. If both of us aren't communicating really well, then that relationship just isn't going to work. I'm not going to get what I need out of it, and he's not going to find it fulfilling either. So that training camp, whilst I got sick and there was a little bit of a blip, put me in a really good place to have such a fun mini track season. I opened up at the night of the 10,000 meter PBs, the best track race there is. Had a pretty solid run there. I ran a PB, it was a smaller PB than I wanted. There's a theme here. Maybe I should just set my expectations lower, but also no, because that changes later this year. And this summer I just had so much fun testing my legs out over different distances that aren't my distance on paper, but were so much fun to get stuck into. Apart from the 1500, that one, never want to do that ever again. It's horrible, just not for me. I actually feel really crap about myself. I think I'd be lying if I said I enjoyed that one. The 3K I did, running sub 9 minutes for the first time ever. I was so pleased with that. And both the 5Ks I ran as well. The PB at Watford, where I ran 15:30 something and took the win. That was so much fun. And then shaving some more time off that PB at the British Champs, running 15:22. And also taking a turn at the front of that race. Like, who is she? I have never done that in a championship race. I didn't think I was gonna win that race. I wasn't putting myself at the front to win it, but I was impacting the race and actually actively making decisions that would change the way that other athletes had to respond to that, which I've never done before, and that was really cool. And again, we documented all of these races and you guys supported us all the way through that. I think it was really exciting to see the change from the roads to the track and then ultimately back to the roads again. Where after canning my track season early at the end of June, we spent the rest of the summer into mid-September in Flagstaff, and it was beautiful. And going into the Berlin Marathon block, I really wanted to enjoy the training. After the disappointment of Houston and having a big confidence knock, I think that was so important for me this year. We absolutely smashed that goal, not just in the training block, but in the race itself as well. And again, I think looking back to just the year before, there is no way we would have been able to go to Flagstaff for 10 weeks. Both of us. Moving our lives out there in 2 suitcases to train for a marathon and pretty much not think about anything else. Yes, I'm writing training plans and continuing my coaching. Yes, we're documenting the journey and creating these videos, but we don't have to ask anyone else to book that time off. This YouTube channel has given us the financial freedom to do that, which I definitely didn't think was possible starting this journey. You're so distracting. The rug is not meant to be like this, by the way. That's better. And at the same time, whilst training for my 4th marathon, I picked up a new sponsor. Just a few months after announcing that I'm technically not a pro athlete anymore, I kind of am again. So I now have the backing of On in my running goals and also our YouTube goals, because not only are they supporting me and valuing me as an athlete, they also support and value what we do on social media, which I think made me really proud to rep their kit and to be wearing their shoes as I ran down those streets in Berlin. And Berlin, I mean, if I could only talk about one thing this year being life-changing or feeling like it has just completely changed the game, it would be Berlin on so many different levels. There's the obvious, taking 3.5 odd minutes off my marathon time, dipping over a minute under the Olympic qualifying time for this year, albeit just a bit late for the Olympic Games, but also the feeling of gaining confidence with every kilometre I ran in that race, surprising myself. That confidence was there at the start of this year, but was kind of shattered after Houston. and I probably was too hard on myself after that, but Berlin more than made up for it. And then we made the video about Berlin, and that's probably my favorite video that we've ever released. If you haven't watched it, you should. It's linked in the description. It's, I think, one of our best videos. And that credit goes to Daniel, not to me. I simply was an actor in that video. I mean, I wasn't acting, I was being real, like I was doing my thing, but you know what I mean. And then also, until very recently, I felt the best I've ever felt coming off that marathon as well. I think having hit higher volume than ever before, having a better training block than ever before, I held on to a lot more of that fitness, and as I came back into training, I didn't feel rusty or fatigued or that I'd lost that fitness. I felt great. Until I found out I was iron deficient a few weeks ago and felt like absolute ass. I told you it was ups and downs. Daniel, do you wanna come down for this bit? I feel like he should be in the next bit.
I feel like I wear the same outfit in every single video.
You do, because you have no clothes. So I've just gotten to the point where I've pretty much finished recapping 2024. And we're talking about, you know, what's changed and how it's going since I quit my job exactly 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I spoke about Berlin, which was, you know, obviously pretty much the highlight of the year. But I've had a couple of other exciting things happen since then, right?
What could that be?
Wow, I don't know. Did we hit a pretty big goal that we harped on about literally all year in all of our YouTube videos, asking everyone to help us get towards that goal?
Rings a bell.
Yeah.
Did it begin with a 1?
100 thousand subscribers! You didn't think we were going to hit that, did you?
There was a point, probably
So pessimistic.
just before Berlin, that I was just like, statistically,
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen because of the average we were doing every
Yeah,
month.
but I know you guys, and I know that you're almost as crazy as we are.
Yeah.
So we pulled through, and with your support, we've made it, which is sick. Our silver play button hasn't arrived yet, but it is on its way. So we'll show you when it arrives. I don't think I thought we ever would get to 100k.
I did. I mean, just look at this face.
Wow. Well, it's funny you say that, because the day after we hit 100k,
I got my knee quite dirty.
you did. Mm-hmm. Did you bruise it? Did you graze it?
It wasn't that dramatic, but it was
Okay.
definitely a bit dusty.
Yeah, you were wearing this jumper when you proposed,
I
actually.
was, yeah.
So you said you didn't think we would hit 100k by the end of the year, but then we did, and the next day you proposed.
Yep. I've had it all planned.
Suspicious timing.
Yeah, we had it all planned,
Are you
didn't we?
guys in on this?
Yeah, we had it all planned, didn't we?
So that was a pretty cool weekend as well. Hitting 100k, which was elation and an amazing feeling to celebrate alone. And then the next day, we got engaged. So now I'm stuck with you, and we have to keep making these videos because, well, it would just be a bit awkward if we didn't, really.
How would that work?
Yeah, it would just be, I'd have to find a different editor.
And then, 12 hours later, you hit 200,000 on Instagram.
That's true, I did. And I wasn't even trying to do that. Just coincided with the same.
happened.
Yeah, just happened. But seriously though, like, we couldn't do what we're doing in terms of making these videos, making them better every single time, going to where we want to in the world to train, to compete, and taking you with us if it wasn't for you guys actually watching the videos, supporting us, subscribing, and just genuinely being the coolest people. We've got the coolest subscribers, haven't we?
We have got the coolest subscribers.
Yeah, statistically speaking.
I was literally just reading the comments on our last video, and there's so many lovely comments.
Yeah.
So many lovely comments. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. So more recently it has been a little bit of a lull, another low, finding out that my iron's deficient, but I think finding that out and then getting on the path to treating that with the iron supplementation has been a positive, because it's an answer and it's now getting me back to the training that I need to be doing and not just feeling fatigued and not being able to work out and probably being a nightmare to live with as well.
Yeah, those 2 weeks were pretty dark.
Yeah.
Pretty dark.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's not me. It's literally my blood.
It's the iron.
It's the iron.
It's the iron.
And I think feeling that tiredness as well, with some stresses of trying to constantly create and put content out and do a lot, came at a time that kind of, I think, made us realise that we need to take some time off firstly, but also find people to help us do this. And build our team out a little bit so that we are not doing everything all of the time. And maybe we can take a day off a week.
That would be nice.
So we're working on that. And we're also working on some pretty exciting goals for 2025, aren't we?
Amen.
We've got some exciting plans coming up. We're maybe looking at building in some slightly different content into the channel, taking you with us on some maybe not running focused videos. Plenty of running as well. I mean, it's all I'm doing 24/7, 365. Maybe that's why I'm so tired.
Maybe you stop running.
Yeah, no, that's not going to work. So that'll be cool. Stay tuned for that. We're not starting van life anytime soon, but maybe one day. And that brings us to our subscriber count today. 2 years on from quitting my job and a month shy of 3 years on from starting the YouTube channel. And we are at 103,238 subs. That's pretty cool.
That's a nice number.
You didn't think we'd hit 100k by the end of the year, and we're on 103. We'll probably hit 104.
All right, you proved me wrong.
I was right on this occasion. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm assuming yours
The
too.
bottom of mine as well.
Yeah. Thanks for following along. Whether you've been here since Berlin this year, since the Farnborough Half Marathon at the start of 2022, or somewhere in between, it's genuinely really great to have you here, and we're really excited about what's coming up next and building this audience, building this community, continuing to chase our dreams and do crazy stuff. And actually, drop a comment with how long you've been here since. Like if you can remember the video that brought you to the channel, stick it in the comments below because I would be really intrigued to know what the ratio is amongst y'all. As cliche as it sounds, that do be the way it is.
So what you got to do?
Me. Or them.
All of us.
Or you. Everyone.
Every single person.
I've got a great way to sum this up.
Oh, go on.
And I think it might even turn into like a catchphrase.
Oh, we need one of those.
Like a motto.
That sounds good.
Or a mantra.
Yeah.
You ready? Love the grind. That's good, isn't it? Little mantra that I've got going in my head recently and today especially is I love the grind.